I like Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's shocking, I know.
There were some movies, terrible movies, movies so awful, no one would touch. Then came a Matthew, sad little Matthew. Matthew decided these movies to watch. For every good movie, there's at least 10 bad. Matthew gonna drag himself through the crap to find the worst ones there are to be had.
Today's episode, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Hello, Internet. I'm called Matt, and this is Matt's Fun Time Bad Movie Show. Except today I'm talking about a show about bad movies. So Matt's Fun Time Bad Movie Show. Mystery Science Theater 3000, or MST3K as it's often shortened, is pretty much my favorite TV show ever. It was a huge influence on me and most of the people who influenced me. And with a bunch of old episodes up on Netflix and a new series coming out very soon, what better time is there to do a retrospective on the series? For those of you unaware, MST3K is about a human, originally show creator Joel Hodgson as Joel Robinson, later replaced by head writer Michael J. Nelson as Mike Nelson, who's trapped on a satellite by evil scientists and forced to watch bad movies as an experiment. To keep his sanity, Joel builds two robots, Tom Servo and Crow T. Robot, and together they make fun of the movies. There's a bit of a debate around the MST3K community about the better host, Joel and Mike, but really most people, myself included, like them both pretty equally. Not that they're the same character, far from it. They're just both very funny characters. Joel is a very cool, laid-back dude who actually was a scientist. Mike was more aggressive than Joel, but the payoff was he didn't let a movie's terribleness slide and was often more easily annoyed by the bot's antics. Now, while I can't play favorites with the host, I will absolutely play favorites with the bots. Crow is the obvious better of the two. I love Tom, make no mistakes, but Crow is one of my all-time favorite characters. He's unpredictable, and he's always the one who's gonna take a joke too far. Also, he says stuff like this.
Well, believe me, Mike, I calculated the odds of this succeeding versus the odds I was doing something incredibly stupid, and I went ahead anyway.
Dude, that's my life motto. That could be the tagline of Matt's Fun Time Bad Movie Show. Also, his favorite movie is Roadhouse, because I needed to find this character more relatable. Crow was originally voiced by Trace... I've never known how to pronounce this. Time to find out. Alright, here we go. Crow was originally voiced by Trace Booley, and while I don't have a preference on Mike or Joel era, the seasons Booley and Frank Karnoff on the show were by far the best. It's worth noting that after the show, Frank Karnoff went on to be the head writer of Invader Zim, which is the furthest from the show anyone really got with any mainstream success. After Booley left the show, Bill Corbett took over as Crow. I never liked Corbett's Crow as much, but I'm not sure how much of that is him actually not being as good and how much is me being an entitled nerd who hates change. He was on the less funny seasons, so that didn't help, but now that he's on Riff Tracks as just himself, I really like him. So probably I just didn't like seeing my favorite character change. But whatever, I'm allowed to be entitled. Corbett sucks, childhood ruined. Tom Servo was originally voiced by J. Elvis Weinstein, who was sort of the MST3K's shimp. He was there just long enough for no one to remember him. Kevin Murphy took over for him in Season 2 and stayed with the show the longest, voicing the bot till the end of the show, and even working with Nelson and Corbett on Riff Tracks. And Film Crew. That existed. I own all three of them. Gypsy is the final robot, and she sure does exist. She never riffed with the other bots in the movies, so she was more of a side character, and I liked her. She was used appropriately, unlike some of the weird side characters they tried adding in later seasons. She was simple and consistent. If you want a good summation of who the bots are as characters, I super recommend the I Don't Get You bit from Monsters A Go-Go. There is more character development in this scene than some shows have in their entire run, and it really makes it feel like more than just a bunch of people yelling at a movie. The humor on MST3K was astounding. I mean, any old schlub can riff bad movies. Case in point, not me, 'cause that'd be too obvious. But it's clear the people on Mystery Science Theater were some of the funniest comedians working in television. They didn't have any pointless running gags that get stale the second time you used them, and they weren't afraid to make super obscure references, which is always funnier. There's something very personal about an obscure reference. Everyone gets why a Star Wars joke is funny, but there's a deeper connection with, say, a Jim Cotta reference. And yeah, some of the jokes are completely dated, but for every one joke stuck in the 90s, there's 10 plus jokes that still work. I should also talk about the sketches, something sadly missing from all future Rift-based projects the cast did. I could watch a show of just this. That's how funny these characters are. There's a very proto-Futurama or Rick and Morty feel in how they do comedic takes on science fiction concepts.
Oh.
Hey guys, what's up?
We're just at the edge of the universe.
Oh, so that's it. No wonder I've suddenly become aware that I can leave my corporeal body and become pure energy, or pure thought, or reason, or pure any number of things.
The most popular of these live-action bits is the Invention Exchange that Joel always had, and Mike sorta did once or twice at first, but then gave up on, which was probably for the best. Being a complete MST3K nerd, I have in fact watched some of Joel's stand-up, and that's what the Invention Exchanges were. Some bit Joel did. It didn't make much sense for Mike to try to do it. And while I like the Invention Exchange, I never miss it when I watch the Mike episodes. From the top now. MST3K premiered in 1988 on a local cable channel in Minnesota. These Season 0 episodes, as they've come to be known, have an even lower budget than the show would go on to have. As a result, not a lot of jokes were written, and most of it was improvised, leading to some long periods of silence. Most of the cast generally dismisses these episodes. The show quickly got picked up by the Comedy Channel, which is what we now know as Comedy Central. Season 1 of the show was kinda awkward. Not Season 0 awkward, but like many shows in their first season, it flounders around trying to figure out what the tone and style of the show is going to be. The Mads this season are Dr. Clayton Forrester, who would be the lead villain in the majority of the show's run, and Dr. Earhart. They were played by Trace Booley and J. Elvis Winstein, respectively, and I do think it's kinda nice that the two villains were also the two robots, even though I really like TV's Frank. TV's Frank came in Season 2 and would stick around till the end of Season 6. Like I said, these were the best seasons of the show. They had figured out who they wanted to be and hadn't gone too far yet. Joel continued to host the show until the middle of Season 5, where he was replaced with Mike. According to Hodgson, he left the show over slight creative differences with series producer Jim Mallon. He didn't want anything to escalate, so he politely stepped down and appointed Nelson as his replacement. Unfortunately, at the end of Season 6, Frank Conniff left the show, and the next season was a bit of a hard one to follow. For starters, Season 7 isn't even a full season. It's 6 episodes released in early 1996 and were sort of the calm before the storm. Frank was replaced by Dr. Forrester's mother, Pearl, played by Mary Jo Pehl, who was sort of a funny character, but it changed completely by the next season, and definitely for the better. This season is better than some of the ones that followed, and even has one of my favorite episodes, Laser Blast, but it was in such a weird place. This is the last season on Comedy Central, the last season with Trace Booley, and the last season before the movie. And let's talk about the fucking movie. Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, is a solid contender for most pointless TV show tie-in film ever made. It is shorter than an actual episode. Every episode of this show is a full movie. Why make a movie about it? Then to add insult to injury, the studio stepped in to help a lot. They asked for fewer jokes so bigger audiences could have more time to laugh, and then decided to give it a very limited release. But even without that, it's got a much higher budget than the show, which is really jarring. The low quality of the show was part of its charm, and the movie gets weird in places. There is one thing the movie does right, and that's showing what life is like on the satellite of love. It really is world building and makes everything feel more expansive. In fact, there's potential for an MST3K movie that was just this. Them standing around, hanging out in the satellite of love. Sure, maybe riff a short or two, that's what you expect from MST3K, but I could have used a lot more of this, cause it's something we couldn't just get from watching an episode of the show. It's not terrible, it is still MST3K, and that's hard to screw up, but it's easily one of the worst episodes. And then came Sci-Fi Channel. The brilliant minds who distributed X-Giant, The Wrath of Paul Bunyan, bought MST3K and decided it should have story arcs. Season A is the worst season of MST3K. It has this bizarre plot of Pearl Forrester, now somehow de-aged even though this is supposed to be long after Season 7, chasing Mike and the bots through time and space and yet somehow also sending them bad movies. Having a plot cut out a lot of the sketches in the middle, which were now being allocated to the overall story arc, and one of the nice things about MST3K is that you can really pick up anywhere and know what's happening without worrying you missed something in the previous episode. Joining Pearl were Brain Guy and Professor Bobo, played by Bill Corbett and Kevin Murphy respectively, and, being played by the bots, come off a lot like the evil equivalent of the bots, which I kinda like. These were pretty interesting characters in a time where the show was going a little overboard, but I like them. Luckily, someone got it through to Sci-Fi Channel that we didn't want story arcs in MST3K, so Season 9 saw less of them, and 10 dropped them altogether. Season 10, honestly, was the best the Sci-Fi Channel episodes ever got, with some actually great episodes in there. Like I said, it seemed like there were some very unmemorable characters in these 3 seasons, and it never quite was what it once was, but overall, I think Season 10 deserves a lot of credit as an above-average season, which is quite an accomplishment for something I call my favorite show. And that'll take us to the end. Until next month, when the sequel show comes out. But that'll have its time. Really, I can't heap any more praise onto this show. Even the episodes I didn't like as much made me laugh at parts. If you're looking for somewhere to start, I'd say check out Seasons 3 and 6, just to see what Joel and Mike were like at their peak form. But really, anywhere works. My favorite episodes include the Christmas specials, Pod People, the Gamera movies, Hobgoblins, Last of the Wild Horses, Mitchell, and Laser Blast. So please, if you haven't seen this show, do. So until next time, I'm Matt, and this is Matt's Fun Time Bad Movie Show.
Is she a hit or a miss?
Yeah, they should really add an S to that.
My point is, you better not fuck this up, Jonah. Jonah.